I think I speak for everyone when I say that melee combat in Fallout 4 really sucks. The way that enemies can just block you forever, the way that enemies can dodge but the player cannot. Don't even get me started on how slowly everything swings. Probably one of the most poorly implemented mechanics in this video game. I mean, some people might wonder if using melee weapons is even considered a viable strategy. So, how about we see what happens when you rely on it? Very well, challenge accepted. Welcome back to Challenge Chronicles. Today's episode, Fallout 4 with only a rolling pin. Now, a lot of you out there probably don't even know that there is a rolling pin weapon in Fallout 4. Me neither, to be honest. I only found out about it a couple of days ago as of writing this script. And the second I did, I wanted to make a challenge about it. So, we must begin the story where all good stories take place. The bathroom mirror. I made my character look like the average obese Italian chef that looked like he would be offended if he didn't try his pasta. I tried to get the chin count up there, but I was only able to manifest around 2 chins. Sad, I know. With my special, the attributes I was mainly interested in were strength, endurance, and charisma. Strength because it directly dictates how much damage a melee attack will do, endurance because it dictates how much health and AP I have, and charisma just because I wanted to.
What?
Nah, I'm just kidding. The high charisma skill is a secret tool that'll help us later.
What's the name of like an Italian chef? Like the most generic Italian chef name? What's the name of that like spaghetti like pasta?
It's like spaghetti, but it's like thick.
Fettuccine, that's it. Fettuccine. 2 T's and 2 C's. The Italians are fucking extra.
Before leaving to go down into the vault, I interacted with Codsworth, and did you guys know that you can actually say goodbye to him before you go? Whack! While going down into the vault, I stared off at this magnificent view of the trees. Ah, truly a wonderful spot. I saw this flash of light or something coming up from behind me. The sun must have just come up. I got into my vault pod, watched as Kellogg murdered my wife and took my son, and then the run has officially started. I actually opened my wife's pod to get her wedding ring because I wanted to sell it once I got to Diamond City. Getting out of the vault without attacking anything was pretty easy, and this time no roaches teleported through the walls. Nice. I grabbed my pick-boy and then I walked out into the wasteland. I talked to Codsworth, helped him kill some bugs by not helping at all, and then he told me to piss off to Concord. I didn't do that. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys are wondering where you actually get the rolling pin in Fallout 4. Well, you can find it randomly in barrels and other stuff like that, but one surefire way of finding it is in Vault 81, so that's my next stop. After a relatively joyful walk enjoying the views, I found Vault 81 and tried to convince the Overseer to let me in. This is where my high charisma skill will come in. If you can't convince her to let you in, you have to give her 3 fusion cores. I don't think I need to tell you guys that isn't happening. I passed a charisma check and then I headed inside. It took me a while to find the rolling pin, but once I found it, I felt like God was smiling down upon me. Finally, I can attack things. With my rolling pin now in hand, I traveled back to the Museum of Freedom to free Preston and his merry men. I one-shot most of the low-level raiders inside Concord and then... I'm not sure if maybe I was tripping on acid, but I'm pretty sure I just saw Preston walk out of the Museum of Freedom and tell me to help him.
I've got a group of settlers inside. The raiders are almost through the door. Grab that laser musket and help us, please.
That's quite strange because the Minutemen are supposed to be trapped in the upstairs room. What a hilarious glitch. Anyway, after I recovered from that mindfuck I just got, I went inside to the Museum of Freedom and killed all the raiders. I ran onto the roof and got the power armor, and then I had to face a deathclaw with a rolling pin. And that went about as well as an American World War II veteran at an anime convention. This wasn't very fun. I especially hate how the deathclaw forces you into an animation so you can't hit him for like 12 seconds. Well, not actually 12 seconds, but it felt like that. The deathclaw would also move around a lot, so hitting it with my rolling pin was almost impossible. And then once I actually was able to attack the deathclaw, it would force me into an animation again. So fucking frustrating. Eventually, I defeated the deathclaw by letting most of the raiders waste themselves trying to attack it and leading it back to Preston so he could shoot it. It took me a while, but the deathclaw was defeated. Now, I was off to Diamond City. Luckily, I could just fast travel to Vault 81 and head from there. I found Piper talking to a speaker, and I really did not want to help her. So I quick saved, beat her to the point of brain damage with my rolling pin, and then headed inside. Turns out, that will work, but every guard in Diamond City is now hostile to you, so that's not really an option. So I reloaded a save and talked to Piper to get in. Fine. I sprinted past everyone so I could get into the vendors to sell all of my junk, and then I did the interview with Piper to get some free XP. After disinfecting myself, I went to Valentine Detective Agency to talk to Valentine's secretary for some free XP. Before I took on the inhabitants of Vault 114, I decided to go back to Sanctuary and scrap everything and then place a billion fence posts to grind my levels up. I also put 4 points in luck and then got the Idiot Savant perk so I could level up faster. While I was at Sanctuary, I also upgraded my rolling pin to be made out of metal and covered in razor blades, making it do a whopping 32 damage. That's not too bad actually. And also at Sanctuary, I found a chef's hat. I now feel complete. The joke has come full circle. Anyway, then I went back to Diamond City and sold a bunch of junk to get enough money to buy enough stim packs to feed a small village of starving children. Stim packs would be a crucial resource for this run because I'm using a melee weapon, which means I'm always up in people's faces where I'm taking the most amount of damage. After I discovered Park Street Station, I also went ahead and discovered Good Neighbor and the Old North Church to save some time. And after that, with about 20 stim packs up my sleeve, I entered Park Street Station. The trigger men in there hurt my feelings because they were mean, and also I guess they filled me full of holes with their guns and stuff, but it was mainly the mean things they said that I remembered. Anyway, I beat them all up until they were an unrecognizable pile of flesh, and then I headed into the vault. The trigger men in here do a surprising amount of damage, so I went through more stim packs than I would have liked. I beat up Dino, freed Valentine, and then beat up more trigger men. When we got to Skinny Malone, I didn't even want to bother passing the charisma check because I wanted to see what my rolling pin would do to him. I beat Skinny Malone until he resembled Pasta Dough, and then I dipped. I met Valentine back at Diamond City, and he told me to ravage Kellogg's house. So I sweet talked the mayor into giving me his house key, and I looted Kellogg's place. I did not follow Dogmeat to Fort Hagen because it's a lot faster if you just go straight there, trust me. I waited for Dogmeat to get there and then I immediately dismissed him. I took on the synths inside, and this also was not very fun. The synths here hurt a lot, and Park Street Station left me with almost no stim packs. Also, the synths would do this thing where they would hit me with their hands a couple of times, which locked me in an animation of taking damage. So frustrating. After taking out most of the synths, I dipped temporarily to sell a bunch of crap to buy more stim packs, and then I returned. I took on Kellogg and beat him to death with my rolling pin. He fell before me within a couple of minutes of fighting him. I swear, the Kellogg fight is always just disappointing. I stole his brain, and then went back to Diamond City. I went to talk to Valentine, and he and Piper told me to go to the memory den. I travelled to Good Neighbor, did the scuffed brain dance segment again, and then Amari told me to find Virgil. It's time for the glowing sea. Once again, Radax was my best friend here. I swallowed enough pills to make a horse see stars, and then I headed to Virgil's cave. I told Virgil that I just wanted to get into the Institute just because, and he believed me. And then he told me to kill a Corsair, so I was off to Green Tech Genetics. I travelled to CIT Ruins and ran straight to the Green Tech because, I mean, it's the big green tower in the centre of Boston, like, where else would a Corsair be? Anyway, I ran through Green Tech, beating the gunners to a pulp, but also going through a fair amount of stim packs. The guns in this building hurt, man. Like, they deal a lot of damage. I was going through stim packs faster than a stripper goes through boyfriends. I got to this part where there were 3 gunners guarding this walkway, and one of these assholes had a missile launcher. I tried a few times just to bolt to him, so maybe I could hit him and disarm him, but he would just blow me up. I even tried peeking from cover, trying to bait him out of using his missile, but this dude was well trained.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Jackie Chan of human shielding. Who takes the time to get this good at...
I eventually got past them by crouching until I was hidden, using a stealth boy, and then beating the snot out of them from behind. After killing those guys, I tried way too many times to hack this computer to disable the turrets, but I fucking hate the hacking minigame in this game, so I eventually just gave up and moved on. Once I got to the Corsair, I felt like this would be a very hard fight. He has guns that are very extremely hurty. However, before I entered Green Tech, I was able to snag another point in the Big Leagues perk, which gives a chance to disarm any opponent with the swing of my rolling pin. So, when I found the Corsair, I took some Psycho and rushed his ass like I was doing a drive-by on the streets of LA. I disarmed him with my first strike so he couldn't attack me. Then, every time he would try to use a stim pack or a stealth boy, I would simply bludgeon him with my pasta stick and he'd be hit out of the animation. So, it was essentially a checkmate in one move. Bro couldn't do anything but stand there as his face became flatter and flatter until finally his knees gave out and he saw God. I ripped his brain from his body, I killed all of the gunners, and then I left. Before I went back to Dr. Amari with the chip, I decided to grind some caps. With the level up I just got from killing that Corsair, I was able to get the local leader perk, rank 2, which allows me to build armor shops at any settlement. If you've seen my last Fallout video, then you already know what I'm up to. I spent a good 15 to 20 minutes duplicating my caps at Sanctuary by scrapping and storing the armor stands at the same time. Once I had around 30,000 caps on me, I went on a shopping spree. I bought a stupid amount of stim packs, Jet, Psycho, and Med-X to prepare for the rest of the game. I told you that high charisma skill would come in handy. Now, with about 40 stim packs up my sleeve and enough drugs to re-overdose 2 Mad 3 times over, I headed back to Dr. Amari. She pointed me in the direction of the Freedom Trail, but little does she know, I actually already discovered the Old North Church earlier in this video. I fast traveled back to the church and met the railroad. They analyzed my Dorito chip and then sent me on my way. I returned to Virgil to get the plans for the teleporter, and now I had a choice to make. I decided that I wanted to side with the Brotherhood in this playthrough, because, well, just because I wanted to, I guess. So I travelled back to the Cambridge police station to finally help Paladin Dance. After defeating all of the ghouls, Dance asked me to follow him to ArcJet Systems, so off we went. We arrived at ArcJet, and I may have activated the jet while Dance was inside, but he was fine, don't worry about it. We got whatever we were there for, and then we took off. Dance told me that the mission could have gone better. I agree, if he actually died while I was lighting the jet, then that would have made everything so much easier. He gave me a worthless pile of plastic.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit.
And then we went back to Cambridge Police Station. I was flown up to the Pridwin, and then I met all the Brotherhood morons. I attended Elder Maxon's lecture, and I tried to tell him about the teleporter. He said that he was interested in my teleporter proposal, but suggested that we do a pointless filler quest first, as per the norm in the Bethesda games. I needed to take out Fort Strong, which means taking out a super mutant behemoth with a rolling pin.
Oh no!
I considered, for a moment, if I should just ditch the Brotherhood and just go give the plans to the Minutemen. But I stuck it through. I got onto Fort Strong and braved the mutants. The smaller, lower level super mutants weren't very hard to deal with. They all died in about 1 or 2 hits. Then, out came the behemoth. Taking out this thing was pretty rough. It took Psycho, Jet, and a bunch of Med-X and Stim Packs to tank a single hit from this discount Hulk. I eventually got through the fight, but I used more drugs than I was comfortable with. I'm surprised that my character didn't start convulsing on the floor and foaming at the mouth. After taking down the behemoth, the rest of Fort Strong was a piece of cake. Even this legendary super mutant fell before me with relative ease. I then spoke with Elder Maxon and he praised me for my hard work. Now, he would finally listen to me about the teleporter. He said that I should speak to Ingram about the plans, but he also mentioned something else. He said that a Brotherhood scientist had gone rogue and was inside the Institute. My mission once in there is to find her and convince her to come back to the Brotherhood. I agreed. I spoke to Proctor Ingram about the teleporter and she agreed to help me build the thing. I set up the teleporter by scrapping everything within a mile radius and I was teleported inside the Institute. Inside the Institute, I met Father and told him that I was on his side. I wasn't. And then I went to Madison Lee, the doctor from the Brotherhood. With charisma now at 9, I passed all 3 checks on the first go, and she agreed to go back to the Brotherhood. I then was granted the ability to teleport in and out of the Institute, so I went back to Elder Maxon to bring him the good news. He told me that Dr. Lee and Proctor Ingram are now working on a very special project that they need my help with. Turns out they are tasked with making a life-size replica of Woody from Toy Story, but I think they got some of the colours wrong. Anyway, Ingram told me that I needed to make some Beyblades or something with a high-powered magnet, which I just so happened to already have in my inventory. Don't ask me how I got one, I legit can't remember. I placed down the Beyblades and then it was time for me to boot up Woody Prime. Turns out that Woody Prime's bomb supply is empty, so obviously me, the person that just joined the Brotherhood a few days ago, has to be the one to retrieve more from the glowing sea. I went through the glowing sea by chugging Radix again, but for some reason the radiation was worse this time, and I also ran into some high level enemies that fucked me up. Some of you are probably wondering why I didn't just use the power armor that was supplied to me by the Brotherhood.
You serious?
Who do you think I am? Do I look like a bitch? No, I'm simply an idiot and a masochist. I went through the Sentinel site, killing the ghouls one by one, until I got to the Atom dude. I convinced him that I'm here to spread Adam's divine praise or something, and he just gave me the password to unlock the door. Little loser. I put the transponder on the bomb room, and then I pissed off. I went back to Ingram and Lee, and they told me that I did a good job, but that Elder Maxon needed to speak with me. Apparently, Paladin Dance is a synth, and he always has been. And to take matters from bad to the Minecraft movie, he's taken off somewhere, and I need to find him. So I set off for Dance's little hidey hole. I took out the turrets and the protections guarding him. My orders were to execute Dance on the spot, so I turned his head into a bowl, and I took his stuff. Back on the Pridwin, Elder Maxon praised me for murdering his own men and gave me the rank of Paladin, whilst also giving me access to all of Dance's stuff. What the actual fuck? The body isn't even cold, Maxon. That's just fucked up. Anyway, so I took all of Dance's stuff and then I spoke to Ingram. She said that there was one more matter we need to deal with before we get our Woody replica up and running. And that is to deal with the railroad. I was quite literally told to just go in there and kill everyone. Before I did that, however, I traveled to Diamond City and purchased another pile of stimpaks and drugs. Now with about 60 stimpaks on me, I fast traveled to the Old North Church and fucking annihilated all of the railroad dudes in my path. Glory was the only one that seemed to pose any sort of threat to me, but she only got to fire her minigun once or twice before I whacked it out of her hand. I repurposed Pam and then I went back to the Brotherhood. Ingram said that with the railroad out of the way, we can go and get the ultimate power source for her Woody replica, specifically one that powers a giant nuclear power grid. Great. Sounds great. We flew over to Mass Fusion, and I did not fire a single bullet from the minigun on the vertibird, and I just waited for it to land. I then took out all of the synths there without too many problems. I went down the elevator and simply hid in the corner of this tube, trying to keep out of line of sight, while Ingram laid down covering fire. I got to the beryllium agitated room, and Ingram told me that the radiation levels in there are something special, so I would need radiation protection. That's fine, I say, I don't need radiation protection. So I walked into the room with nothing but my vault suit on, and I instantly took 1 billion points of radiation damage and dropped dead. When Ingram said that there's a lot of rads in there, she really means it. So I had to chug basically the rest of my Rad-X to stack up the effects because I didn't have a hazmat suit or my power armor. I grabbed the agitator, and then it was time for the not so fun part. I now have to fight a sentry bot with only a rolling pin. Fun. Actually, the sentry bot wasn't the problem. I managed to take it down by chugging Psycho and Jet. However, the Assaultrons are where things got fucky. They killed me a few times because they would charge up a beam from their head that would instantly kill me. Also, they kept blocking my rolling pin strikes by holding up their arm, which forced me into an animation of being stunned. Not fun. Eventually, I killed them after a few attempts, and then I hightailed it out of there. It's time, finally, to bring Woody to life. I put the agitator in the circle hole, and then pressed the button to wake him. And there was not a hamster's chance in a microwave that I was going to follow him all the way to CIT ruins. Fuck that. I fast traveled to CIT, and then watched as he blew up the entrance to it. Why do you guys need me to teleport in there if you could just blow it open? Anyway, I massacred all the men, women, and children. Just kidding, there were no children because this is a Bethesda game. And then I needed to give Ingram access to the doors. I went up to Father's room and bludgeoned his eyes in towards his brain. I then spent 5 fucking minutes trying to hack this fucking computer. God, I absolutely hate the hacking minigame in this game. Anyway, I gave Ingram access to the doors, and then I went into the generator room. I chugged my remaining chems and drugs because you can't overdose if you're already radiation poisoned, and I put the charge on the generator. I was teleported to safety, and there was a robot kid pretending to be Sean. I told him to piss off and that he was going to get blown up with the Institute. Ingram didn't like that, I don't care. I teleported to a skyscraper, and then I nuked the Institute into the next millennia. And that's it. That's a wrap. I just completed Fallout 4 with only a rolling pin. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of this video. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button. Alternatively, if you hated it, go ahead and hit the dislike button, and feel free to go down into the comments and tell me all the other ways that I'm a total fuckhead. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It's totally free, you can always unsubscribe later. Anyway, that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching Challenge Chronicles, and I'm out of here.